compound door is still smoking when the first SEAL steps over the body. The stack moves. Somewhere above this building, a drone is recording everything. What you are about to witness is what happens when the world's most dangerous operators hit Taliban that the entire intelligence community said could not be touched. Close quarters, pitch black, no margin for error, and a camera capturing every second of it. 5 raids. 5 moments when Special Operations Forces walked into situations designed to kill them and came out the other side. This is the top 5 most deadly SEAL Team 6 raids ever caught on combat footage. October 11, 2004, Mosul, Iraq. Somewhere inside a double-walled compound in the city's northwestern district, a senior Al-Qaeda in Iraq facilitator named Abu Kaka al-Ambari is sleeping. He doesn't know Delta Force is already watching him. This is where we start. At the moment, a 12-man Delta assault element sits in a forward staging area, staring at a target package that tells them exactly what's waiting inside. 6 armed fighters, reinforced steel doors, and 1 corridor so narrow that 2 men can't pass through it side by side without touching the walls. Their commander knows that corridor isn't a hallway. It's a kill funnel. The intelligence is solid. The geometry is brutal. In 3 hours, those 12 men are going to have to walk straight into it. The charge is set. The operator backs 3 steps and fires the initiator. And nothing. Charge. The outer gate is still standing, and now every fighter inside knows Delta is at the door. AK fire erupts immediately. 2 murder holes stitched into the wall, pre-positioned, pre-aimed. First rounds arrive within 4 seconds of the misfire. Inside 90 seconds, 3 operators are down, not dead, but hit, grazing wounds that would pull other men off the line. These men do not lead the line. Staff Sergeant's element pushes forward with bolt cutters and a manual ram cutting steel under direct fire. The gate gives, the funnel opens. That is the breach. What's waiting on the other side is smaller than a room and darker than the street they just fought through. 2 men are already barricaded inside it. Helmet cam, 4 feet. 2 men behind an overturned metal bed frame. 14 minutes after the gate blew. The corridor feeding into this room is barely a shoulder's width. You can see the operator's muzzle swinging left as his light catches the frame, steel legs pointing at the ceiling, a body compressed behind it. Then a second shape moves. The engagement lasts under 8 seconds. 2 bursts. Controlled. No hesitation, no wasted rounds. Both fighters down before the second operator even crosses the threshold. The DoD after-action timestamp corroborates it. 8 seconds of film that looks like nothing until you understand what was inside that room and who sent it there. That is room 0. But the real measure of what Delta pulled off that night isn't on the helmet cam. It's in what they carried out of that compound. When the last shot stopped echoing, the 12-man element moved fast through the wreckage. Not celebrating. Working. Hard drives. Thumb drives. Paper documents. General Stanley McChrystal's JSOC task force had drilled this into every operator. Intelligence leaving a target could matter more than any trigger pull inside it. That night, it did. All 6 fighters neutralized. 0 Delta KIA. Buried inside those drives. Names. 31 IED cell leaders operating across northern Iraq. Real names, real networks, live targets. In 2006, JSOC confirmed that intelligence hauled directly to the Senate Armed Services Committee. One October night in Mosul had handed them a map to dismantle an entire bomb-making apparatus. That was the metric that mattered. But the next raid on this list never had the luxury of a clean compound and a prepared breach. It started with a man falling out of a helicopter, alive, into a summit full of Al-Qaeda fighters with nowhere to run. March 4, 2002, Takur Gar Mountain, Afghanistan. 10,200 feet above sea level, in pitch darkness and -20 wind, Razor 03 climbs toward the summit on an insertion run. Operation Anaconda has already gone sideways on the valley floor. Now it's about to detonate on a ridgeline. RPG tears into the Chinook. The aircraft lurches violently. Petty Officer, First Class, Neil Roberts, SEAL Team 3, loses his footing on the wet ramp and slides off into the dark. He lands alive. On the summit, 8 Al-Qaeda fighters close around him. Roberts has his rifle. He has seconds. Inside Razor 03, the crew has no idea their man is still breathing on that mountain, but they're about to find out. And when they do, the decision that follows will send another helicopter straight into the same kill zone. Calvert doesn't hesitate. Razor 03 is still bleeding hydraulic fluid when Chief Warrant Officer Greg Calvert calls it. Turn around, go back, get Roberts. Battle damage be damned. He radios Razor 01 before the aircraft even stabilizes. 2 minutes. That's how long it takes for a second Chinook to lift off, carrying a 7-man SEAL and Ranger Quick Reaction Force. 7 men, 1 objective, reach a single operator on a 10-200-foot summit surrounded by Al-Qaeda. Nobody aboard Razor 01 has illusions about what they're flying into. The mountain just ate 1 helicopter and swallowed 1 man. They're heading for the same coordinates, the same defenders, the same dark. The QRF locks magazines and says nothing. Razor 01 climbs toward Takur Gar. What happens when it tries to land will become the most documented close-quarters battle of the entire Afghan war. Razor 01 hits the landing zone at 10,200 feet and the mountain opens up instantly. A DSK heavy machine gun, Soviet-built, firing 12.7mm rounds the size of a man's finger, tears through the fuselage before the wheels fully touch. The Chinook goes down hard. Sergeant Philip Spitak is killed at the gun before he fires a single burst. The survivors pour out into waist-deep snow. 200 meters of open mountain above them, the DSK position reinforced, elevated, waiting. They assault uphill anyway. For 14 minutes, a Predator UAV circles overhead recording everything. Every movement through the snow. Muzzle flash from the Al-Qaeda position. Meter gained, captured on thermal feed. Later declassified and released by the Department of Defense. 14 minutes that become the most documented high-altitude firefight of the Afghan war. But the footage doesn't show the cost. That comes next. 7 hours. That is what it takes to finally silence Takur Gar. By the time the last shot echoes off the ridgeline, 7 Americans are dead. Neil Roberts, Philip Spitak, Senior Airman Jason Cunningham, a pararescue man who bleeds out after exhausting every medical supply trying to keep others alive. 4 more alongside them. The mountain takes all of them, but the Predator never stops recording. Every hour of that fight, the uphill assault, the casualty positions, the final clearing of the Al-Qaeda nest captured on thermal feed. That footage is later cited verbatim in the 9/11 Commission's staff statement. It is the earliest confirmed special operations overhead footage of the Afghan war. 7 medals awarded, 7 names on a wall. That is the cost combat footage never fully shows. But when the men are already captured before the raid even begins, that is a different kind of violence entirely. September 19, 2005. 2 men in civilian clothes move through the city doing what SAS operators do best, disappearing in plain sight. Staff Sergeants Russell and McCauley, 22 SAS Regiment, deep undercover, running surveillance inside a city bleeding out from Mahdi army control. No uniforms, no markings, nothing that should give them away. A checkpoint stops them. Iraqi police study their faces. Something breaks. Within minutes, the word moves. British Special Forces, plain clothes, detained. They are handed not to Iraqi police custody, but to the Serious Crimes Unit, a Mahdi army-aligned militia holding 150 prisoners inside a Basra police station. 150 prisoners, most never leaving. 2 SAS soldiers are now inside that building. What Britain does next will be seen by the entire world because every camera in Basra is about to point at the same wall. The SAS troop commander gives the order. The Challenger 2 reverses. 62 tons of British steel accelerates backward into the station's outer wall. The wall doesn't hold. It explodes inward. Concrete, dust, iron, everything, and before the debris settles, operators are already moving through it. An AP cameraman catches it all, the breach, the ropes dropping, black-clad figures fast roping into the courtyard as the dust cloud still rises. The Ministry of Defense later authenticates the footage. No ultimatum delivered to waiting diplomats, just a wall where a wall used to be, and SAS soldiers already inside it. That is the rescue mission the world actually watched happen in real time. But getting in was only half the problem. Getting out was about to turn the entire convoy into a fireball. The convoy pushes out through the breach. Smoke, shouting, the crunch of rubble under armored treads. Then the petrol bombs come. Molotov cocktails arc out of the dark from both sides of the street, rooftops, alleys, everywhere at once. Glass shatters across the hulls. One warrior IFV erupts, flames sheet across the rear hull and climb fast. There is an operator inside. His crewmates pull him out through the hatch with bare hands. Singed kit, scorched skin, but breathing? 3 civilian mobile phones catch it. The burning warrior, the extraction, the operator standing beside the vehicle, alive. Within 2 hours, that footage is on every major broadcast network on Earth. The SAS got their men out. They got everyone out. But what happens when the cameras stop rolling and the politicians start talking is a story all its own. Baghdad's interim government demanded a formal British apology within 48 hours of the footage hitting global airwaves. The images were undeniable. A Challenger 2 punching through a sovereign Iraqi police station wall. The Ministry of Defense confirmed the operation, confirmed the soldiers recovered, confirmed lethal force was authorized. They did not name the regiment. They never do. For over a year, the political noise ran hot. Then in 2006, the House of Commons Defense Committee published its findings. The rescue was a justified use of force under the operational circumstances present. That closed the official record. No apology, 2 operators home alive. That is the SAS Basra jailbreak, a mission the institution will never fully claim and never fully deny. But what happens when the regiment that never speaks goes up against a force trying to kill them before they reach the gate? That's where SEAL Team 6 enters the list. Eastern Afghanistan. 3 adjacent Taliban compounds, fully staffed, fully armed, expecting nothing. DEVGARU Red Squadron's answer was to land 2 Black Hawks 5 kilometers out and walk. 5 clicks through darkness. Full kit. Night observation devices pressed to their faces. No engine noise blowing forward. Just boots on rock and controlled breathing. Rob O'Neill describes it in The Operator. The silence on that approach felt deliberate, almost surgical. The hard, fast breach doctrine that had defined 2 years of this war assumed speed was protection. Red Squadron decided invisibility was better. 0 helicopter noise on target. That was the entire gamble. They were still 2 kilometers out when the night started going wrong, because not everyone on the objective agreed with that plan. They were still 2 kilometers out when the night started going wrong, because not everyone on the objective agreed on the plan. Army Special Forces and British SAS had a different calculation. They came in loud, little birds flaring hard over the compound, a Chinook thundering directly overhead. The Taliban heard it. Every fighter inside those 3 compounds heard it. Rob O'Neill describes what followed as controlled panic. Red Squadron's carefully built silence, 5 kilometers of it, evaporated in seconds. Radios erupted. The order came, sprint, 500 meters, full kit under fire. Boots hammering rock, rounds snapping past. The surgical approach had become a foot race, with men trying to kill them at the finish line. That is the cost of a broken plan. But Red Squadron reached the gate, and what came next, splitting across 3 structures simultaneously under full blackout, is exactly why this raid belongs on this list. Red Squadron hits the gate already behind. The silence built over 5 kilometers is gone, replaced by incoming fire and 3 compounds that all have to die simultaneously. The element splits without hesitation. Each team peels toward its structure in full NOD blackout. No white light, no naked eye laser, just green tinted door frames and the geometry of fatal funnels. Then a muzzle flash fills the frame at under 2 meters. Then it's over. 3 structures, 1 continuous movement, flex-cuffed detainees lined in the courtyard while gunshots are still echoing off the walls. That is the raid the institution tried to plan around, and couldn't. But the real question is, what Red Squadron walked out with, and what JSOC did with it next. 0 DEVGRU KIA, 14 fighters neutralized, 3 high-value detainees, flex-cuffed and breathing. Red Squadron walked out of those 3 compounds with exactly what the mission demanded, then handed JSOC something more valuable than the detainees, proof that the tactic worked. Within 60 days, Admiral William McRaven pushed the offset infiltration model into standard JSOC doctrine, not as a suggestion, as the template. He referenced it directly in his 2011 Senate confirmation testimony, a general officer publicly crediting a single night's execution for reshaping how every future raid would begin. 5 kilometers on foot in the dark, under NODs, in silence. That is the doctrine that stuck. That tactic would be refined, rehearsed, and loaded onto 2 stealth-modified Black Hawks less than a year later for the most consequential compound raid in American history. Nobody outside that planning room knew the target existed. Nobody outside that planning room knew where Osama bin Laden was hiding, not with certainty. For 6 years, he lived inside a walled compound in Abbottabad, a city of 230,000 people, 1 mile from Pakistan's equivalent of West Point. 18-foot barbed wire walls, balconies ringed with 7-foot barriers engineered to block every sightline from outside. The CIA tracked a courier network for years before a single compound in a quiet Pakistani garrison city pulled their attention. By 2010, their best analysts put the probability that bin Laden was inside at somewhere between 60 and 80%, a figure the Senate Intelligence Committee would later cite directly. That is the compound no one knew. DEVGRU's Red Squadron rehearsed the raid at a life-size replica in North Carolina. 2 practice runs, April 7th, 1 more April 13th, because when the birds lifted, there would be no second attempt. May 1st, 2011. 2 Black Hawks rolled down the Jalalabad runway in complete blackout. No radio chatter Pakistani air defense could catch. The SEALs inside are packed tight, kit already soaked in the Afghan heat, weapons checked and checked again. 23 operators and 1 dog named Cairo. These helicopters don't exist on any public manifest. The modified tail rotors are shrouded, the fuselage treated to cut radar cross-section. Cargo calculated to the ounce. Because in thin mountain air over the Hindu Kush, every extra pound is a variable that kills. 90 minutes of nap of the earth flying. Blades low enough that Pakistani radar never locks on. The stealth holds until it doesn't, but that moment is still 60 miles ahead. Right now the birds are climbing into Pakistani airspace and the compound walls are waiting. The hard landing Black Hawk is already burning behind them. No time to process it. The assault element flows through the compound gate in under 2 minutes, rehearsed so many times in North Carolina that their legs move before their brains do. They push up through the 1st floor, 2nd floor, stairwell dark, nods painting everything green. 3rd floor landing. Rob O'Neill rounds the corner. Osama bin Laden is standing 18 inches away. 3 rounds, center mass, then head. The man who killed 3,000 people on a September morning drops in under 2 seconds. O'Neill later describes the moment not as relief, but as a strange, ringing silence. That is what 23 operators and a decade of hunting looked like at its end. But the ground phase isn't over. While O'Neill stands on that landing, Cairo is already running the perimeter and nothing is getting out. Cairo hits the outer wall at a run. While O'Neill stands on that 3rd floor landing, Handler Will releases Cairo into the exterior corridor, and the dog goes to work immediately. For all 38 minutes of the ground phase, Cairo runs the perimeter, every shadow, doorframe, every gap in the wire. Will reports 0 breaches. Not 1 occupant slips out during the most high-value takedown in American military history. Consider what that means. 12 women and children are inside that compound. Couriers, bodyguards, family members. Any one of them could have broken for the darkness the moment that Black Hawk went down. Cairo makes sure none of them do. The post-mission AAR submitted to JSOC on May 3rd is blunt, 0 breaches, entire ground phase. A 4-legged operator holding a perimeter 23 humans couldn't cover alone. But the raid doesn't end when Cairo stops running. 4 separate cameras recorded every second, and what that footage reveals about Neptune's spear changes everything. The White House Situation Room feed, a classified Predator ISR track overhead, individual operator helmet cams moving room to room inside that compound. 4 simultaneous verified recording sources capturing every second of the 38-minute ground phase. And then director Leon Panetta sits down with NBC on May 3, 2011, 1 day after, and confirms the helmet cam footage exists. Rob O'Neill on the 3rd floor landing. Cairo running the wire, the crashed Black Hawk burning in the courtyard, all of it recorded from 4 angles at once. Every other raid on this list left fragments. Neptune's spear left a complete archive. That is the footage that exists, and that is why it sits alone. If a locked door, a crashed Black Hawk, and 38 minutes were all it took to end a decade-long manhunt, drop a comment. Was Neptune's spear the most decisive raid in modern history, or does another entry on this list top it? Like, subscribe, and tell us which footage hit hardest.